Good evening, good morning, good day, no matter what part of the world you are. Welcome to another rendition of Creating Legacy Through Community Service. My name is Sophia Chu, and I am your host today. And with me, I have in Jamaica what you call your pari, your longtime friend, somebody that you've known for a long time. So I'm looking forward to this interview. So, first, we're going to start out with you telling them your name and a little bit about your birthplace, where you're from, and a little bit about your birthplace.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Taylor from Trinidad and Tobago, 7 miles off the Venezuelan coast, and started traveling in '68 as a welder and fabricator. I did the Virgin Islands and then the Bahamas and then Canada, New York, and then I end up in Detroit.
All right, hold it right there. Okay, so you ended up in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So you know this communication or this really is about the Caribbean community here in Metro Detroit.
Right.
So I want you to tell me, how did you really get here to Detroit and why you decided to stay?
The reason why I end up in Detroit is because I had met a young lady from Detroit.
Hold it. So wait a minute. So this is like our fourth interview, and it seemed like all the Caribbean people come here for love. So all right, go on again.
Well, love is a good thing.
All right.
You...
Detroit is for lovers, evidently.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, my ex is from Detroit. Have a beautiful daughter with her. And I end up, she used to come and check me out in the Bahamas every 6 months. So I decided to come and see her. I was on vacation actually, and my company I was working with had sent me on a job here, which was the federal building downtown.
That's a beautiful building. What did you do there?
Well, it was in construction at the time I got here, so we were doing a lot of welding.
Okay.
But I didn't stay. I went back to the Bahamas.
And you came back here and
stayed? Then, back and forth, and then we decided to get married.
Brand new news to me. Okay.
Is it
So why did you stay in Detroit area?
Well, I'd always loved the Detroit area because it was so close to Canada. Because I have a lot of friends in Canada. And the regards to the Caribbean, which is something we are connected with.
Okay.
I stayed in Detroit because I'd worked with a young guy who was in the Bahamas doing a carnival project. And that's the reason why I stayed in this area, because he was based in Toronto.
Okay. So we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the conversation now. So tell me a little bit about your history as you know it with the Caribbean community here in Metro Detroit. How did you get introduced to them? A little bit about the communications or some of the work that you did with the Caribbean community, and just kind of bring us back through your story to the Caribbean community when you first came here.
Okay. The Caribbean community here was very active when I came here. And it was small but yet broad, because you had Windsor, the Caribbean community over there, were connected with this one here. And also the students from Eastern University and Ann Arbor, all these guys would come down to Detroit, or somewhere or the other we'd connect, and that's how we started. And then I was instrumental in starting Trinidad and Tobago Association.
Tell us a little bit
with
about
my
that.
father, with a dear friend of mine from Trinidad, Noble Wilson, and Mervyn Henry, and a couple other guys. We were instrumental in starting TNT Association.
So what's going on with that organization now?
Today, I don't know. Presently, I don't even think it exists.
Okay.
Because the generations have changed. Yeah.
We met with a couple other community members, and they talked about their history with the West Indian American Association, one of the oldest organizations around here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know about them, or were they instrumental in your purview when it came to the Caribbean community here?
Yeah, well, the West Indian American Hall or Association was the anchor for the Caribbean community.
Okay.
That is where we go and socialize on weekends. And because of the sports, cricket, we had some Trinidadians who were also involved with cricket. So the hall was like an anchor place for the Caribbean people.
Okay. All right. So we're sitting in your studio, and I want you to tell our audience a little bit about your company, Caribbean Mardi Gras Production, and what that company does and the reason for this company existing.
Well, the reason for the company existing is because I have a passion for my culture. Two, the culture that I came from was so colorful that I decided wherever I live, I would share my talent with that particular community. When I first came here, I was more in tune with the Americans doing like pageants and shows. So when they had discovered me, they took me under their wings. And I had done several shows for several elite Black female organizations in Detroit.
You can drop some names, Drop some names, let them know how big you are.
Well, it's so much years that gone by. A lot of people is deceased now. But, I work with a lot of people, even from Highland Park, the mayor of Highland Park, his secretary. I work with the school downtown on Cass, the piano school on Cass, the Union Hall. There was a union building on Cass Avenue and the freeway, Fisher Freeway, where Afboni Modeling School was anchored. My first 10 months in Detroit, I put on a show because of the love and support the community had showed me in the early days.
Okay. So I am one of those lovers of your work. The costumes that you make, the intricacies of the design. Tell us a little bit about your trade as a welder and what role that plays in these costumes that we're sitting surrounded by currently, right? So tell me how, in your mind, you envision a costume and how you take it out of your head and put it together using your welding skills. Because I know it's so much more than that. But to me, that's an integral part of what you do, because I wear one of the big pieces with wheels on them that are strapped around my hips that I have to hold on to as I pull them down the street. So kind of tie together for me your welding abilities and how that plays into how you see and design your costume.
Okay. So the welding has different techniques that I learned. And with the welding skill, it came and it played a very important role, because on the large costumes, you have to do some welding. And the other side of my welding trade is fabricating, which is forming. You read a blueprint and you fabricate, you put pieces together. That's how welding comes in. So it became like, just taking candy from a baby. So I felt the love in my work, and that is why I have the great passion for my work.
Okay. So one of our guests mentioned you by name as to one of the reasons why he looked forward to the Detroit Carnival years ago when it first started taking form, about the beauty of the costumes that you put on the street. And he was looking forward or hoping that we could get back there. So I want you to talk a little bit about your history with costuming in the carnivals that were here locally, and also some of the other things that you're doing in different cities in the area that kind of brings people's fascination for Trinidad Carnival here to Metro Detroit.
Okay, well, the one of the things I had loved with the parade we used to do downtown, it was a platform for me to express myself. And I always tell people my work is my signature. So every year I go out there, my signature had to be better. And I know I had great followings because even today people used to tell me they used to bring a chair just to see my group. And my group was always the leading group in the parade. We had commissioned a couple of designers from Toronto also to come down to give the parade a fuller impact. But my group was one of the outstanding groups, and actually I used to win the first prize for my designs every year.
How about the steel band portion of it?
Okay.
I know you used to have classes to teach youngsters and older people, my apologies, to play the steel band.
Well, yeah, that's part of my culture also, the steel drum. It plays an important role with me. That's the reason why I put the band together, because I can remember that is actually the first step of me starting to design, because that was the music for the mass groups in Trinidad, steel drum groups. And what I would do as a kid, I would go to the barnyard, what we call the barnyard, where the steel drums practice, and I'd paint the drums or do the t-shirts.
Oh.
That's how I got started.
Okay.
And then, I got caught up in that, and I say, I need to do some more. And I started designing costumes.
Now it comes full circle.
Yeah.
So our final question for you today is, and I want you to take a minute before you respond. What are your hopes for our Caribbean community here in Metro Detroit? Catch your breath.
Well, my hope is that we could revive what we had. It might not be the same. It might be even bigger because of modern time, modern technology. I think people are more alert of the Caribbean culture around the world. And I see it as an easy sell to the city of Detroit. But it have to be at a business level where we go out big and do a nice story on our culture in the form of the parade. And there's a lot of younger generations, like I was sharing with you earlier, with a little girl. Her godfather used to be in the parade. And now she came to me yesterday for me to design a costume for her to go to St. Thomas. So that gave me a lot of inspiration, plus to what I already have. I would never, my inspiration would always be there to keep on doing what I do. But is the managing of doing a major carnival in the city of Detroit is what I need. Because I cannot manage it and produce it.
Makes sense. And I think the more authentic people that you work with too, to get us where we need to be, helping you lift the load.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I thank you again so much for your time. I know that every time we get together, it's always about reminiscing on the great times that we have had in our community in hopes of building and making it better. So I applaud you for the work that you have done and the work you continue to do, and into helping us create a legacy through community service.
You're welcome.
Any final words before we close out, Mr. Taylor?
Well, my final word is I wish people could see this interview, or let's get together and create that signature we had before in the city of Detroit.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.